Stoker award-winning Clay McLeod Chapman is on here. I did the same thing with RJ Joseph because I interviewed her right after.
Oh my God.
Right, like literally 3 days after she won, we had an interview. So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked her: is like, how does it feel?
I'm gonna start off by saying RJ is the best. Like
RJ
RJ
is
is
the
the
best.
best.
RJ is the best. I agree with you.
Like she, not only is she award-winning worthy, like her work just it's there. It's there. It gets it. But she's like the nicest person, and she shows up, which I don't know. Just hearing you say RJ, like just like I had that moment of like, oh man, like she's the best. Um, and I'm totally blanking on the question. How does it feel? It
How did it
feels
feel? How does it feel now? I would say here, obviously at the time you're like overwhelmed and you're like, it's this big thing. Now it's been a little bit of time.
yeah.
How's it feel now that you processed it a little bit?
The processing is an ongoing process. Uh, I mean, the things that change versus the things that don't. It's funny because you I guess I should say, I think one would probably imagine this will change, and that's the stuff that doesn't change, versus the things that you don't anticipate changing are the things that inevitably end up changing. Which is to say, I mean, I didn't know necessarily what would change. I think like when I saw Haley Piper win Best Novel years ago, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. God, time is so relative. It felt like it was heralding like Haley Piper is here, and that was it. Just it was amazing, and I didn't know. For me, it was like, what's gonna happen? Like, there's that moment, like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And you know what? It's kind of the same in the sense
Yeah.
that, like, still have to put those shoes on, still have to tie them, lace them up, and y- not that I thought that like I would like strut down the sidewalk and all of a sudden everybody be like, "Hey, who are you? Look at that!" But
Yeah.
like it's calm in a way that it's like, oh, and I think the takeaway here is that the things that one would assume changes, it just the grind keeps going. Like there's still the hustle, there's still that uphill battle of trying to convince people to read your
Buy your
stuff.
buy your book. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I unless I'm doing it wrong, which is always a possibility.
I I don't know. I feel like you're doing a pretty good job. Largely, I feel like it. I mean, the worst. It's the feeling of like, oh, I could do more
Yeah,
because you could always do more, but that's not a good way to. That's a very unhealthy way to think. To
yeah,
think like that's. I don't. I try my best not to think like that.
yeah.
Um, I wanted to start with Stoker talk, but then we could talk about the thing we're actually here to talk about, which is Devil Inside, which is coming out when this drops tomorrow.
Oh
When
my
people are
God.
listening to this book will be out tomorrow. So this is the last chance to pre-order it, or if you're obviously if it's the day after, just go buy it. You can just go get the book. Um, I had no idea what to expect with this book. I have a lot of questions for you about it. But
Yeah.
before we do that, can you give our listeners like a little elevator pitch about the book?
Yes, I will definitely do my darndest. Devil Inside is, they're pitching it as like a horror romance novel. So it's a horror romance book that is, in essence, a guy meets a demon. But maybe a little more nuanced is that there is a bike messenger by the name of Jordan who gets into an accident and actually dies for a total of 2 minutes. And in that time, he goes down. He goes south. He goes to the bad place. And in the scope and scale of this story, whether you want to say that's hell with a capital H or not, like it's the place you don't want to go.
Right.
And but then he comes back. He's revived and revitalized. Revived. What's the word?
Re- Revived
Resuscitated.
that's also the right. Both words are fine.
Yeah,
Both of those are correct.
those words.
Resurrected, even.
Resurrected. Even better.
Yeah, biblical.
And but he comes back with the knowledge that he is in essence, kind of damned. He is a man with no soul and kind of on stolen, bought time. And in that, he meets a a demon, and the demon's name is Lilith, but not that Lilith. Um, and Lilith is a character who is on in the land of the living in order to appease or appeal to our baser natures and compel us to do wrong or do bad in order to uh, find more, populate the bad place down below so that they and their like can have yummy food. And it is, that there's that whole notion of kind of like the devil on your shoulder, kind of whispering in your ear to make you do the naughty things, the bad things. This is kind of taking that notion, but putting it a little bit more kind of center and saying it's the devil in your heart, really kind of forcing you, compelling you, pushing you to do really, really bad things. And when the two meet, sparks fly and bad, 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 dark things ensue.
Yeah, it's again, I didn't know what to expect. I've read multiple of your other books, and I think I don't know, I do have a certain expectation, I guess, from a more traditional horror novel. But then when this is, marketed as a horrormance, I'm like, what is that? I've read things that I think, like, I don't know, you in your afterward you mentioned Spread Me, which I've
Mm-hmm.
read, and I really, really enjoyed that. Which I guess technically is also, I don't know if what you would classify that. I kind of like it because that's such a weird. It's not a genre.
Yeah.
It's just a weird. It's weird. Um, Even though there is romance in it, sort of,
Yeah. Yeah.
in Spread Me. And there definitely is romance in this. Like, I don't think that's a misnomer to call this a romance, but there's also the horror is front and center as well.
Yeah.
Um, which I think what it has told me that is that I like that. I like horror mance because most romance books I've tried are just a little too cuddly, a
Yeah.
little too sweet, and not enough sandpaper. And this has that. It has all the horror, what you want from that. Um,
Lots of sandpaper.
a lot of sandpaper. That's a kind way to. And I'm going to try to dance around spoilers. The book literally comes out tomorrow. I'm going to try and I phrase some. I have one question in particular that I have phrased to try and get around a spoiler. I'm going to start very broad though. So, was your approach to this one when you were starting it? Did you know this is going to be a quote unquote horror mance? And if so, was your approach to writing it different at all versus a more traditional horror novel?
Yes. I mean, we always knew, like, it's wild because this is quote unquote a Harlequin romance novel.
Right.
Like I am under the banner of Harlequin. It's a imprint. It's Mira, so it's a little bit further off the beaten path, but it is within this stable, which in of itself is mind blowing. I Yeah. And that said, what is interesting is that in the process of it, like the editor, my editor for this book, an amazing editor by the name of Emma Cole, she approached me and she was like, "Have you ever?" She had read a few of my previous novels, and some of them had a thread of romance in them, like kind of like a love story. And she responded positively to that, and she was like, "You should. Have you ever considered writing an actual romance?" Um, and I've always wanted to write a romance, and she offered an opportunity for me to kind of pitch to her and to Mira and to Harlequin, and it was this book. And then once I kind of came in, it was time to kind of talk about the rules of romance, which are very, very specific. Um, like a romance novel has to have a happily ever after. They call it the HEA.
I've seen that thrown around a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I want to say to your point earlier, this is, I feel, a horror novel, a horror story like structure, like embedded within the structure of a romance novel. So it is a horror story that plays by the rules of a romance book. And because of that, it was in net like the HEA was the inevitable conclusion. Like that had to be the course that we were plotting. Um, I think the surprise to me was how dark it got. But uh, you know, when you take the kind of core concept of like what is possession, like what does actual demonic possession mean? The loss of autonomy, the loss of oneself, like where does where does oneself end and the demon begin, and like what is that partnership? You know, where does complicity come into it? Where does you know, like these were all questions.
Consent. That's
Consent.
yeah, that's another part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, which you play with quite a bit in the
Yeah.
book.
I mean, you know, if you're going to have a book that kind of address like asks these questions, you have to go there. And
Right.
you know, but the HEA was non-negotiable. And the thing I learned is that in the kind of discovery of this story and the way that it wanted to be told, a happily ever after for our two lovers is not a happily ever after for the rest of the world or anyone in their orbit, or you know, like
Right.
it's and that was okay. Like that was what
Right.
my editor gave me permission to do. Because like there was a moment of like, am I allowed to do this? And they're like, hey, an HEA, it's not that everybody has to be happy. It's
Well, I
just
mean, I feel like it's truthful to the horror part of the story,
Mhm.
where it is like, yeah, and I don't know. I've heard this is the thing, because all of this is like, I don't know. I am obviously in publishing. I know a lot. I know romance writers, and they are, you know, they work really within, like you say, rules. They work within this like system of building a story. And and then like, but I've always heard these whispers of people who want horror romance. They're like, well, no, in horror, you obviously don't have happy endings a lot of the time, or even most of the time. And
Yeah.
maybe in a horror romance, you don't need a happy ending. You can break that rule, maybe. But I feel like you've kind of, here, not to spoil things, but you've kind of find a balance, so to
Yeah.
speak, of pleasing both masters, I would say.
Or
Um,
not pleasing either master.
I was, hey, I think this book's great. I wasn't, I had no idea what to expect, but I kind of like that when I go into stories not knowing that.
Yeah.
And I think that is like, this is certainly for the people who don't like romance, I feel like, or think they don't like romance, maybe. This is the book. You read this and you go, oh, actually, no. It's just, I just wanted something. I want that dark themes interwoven, and the way you play with possession, what you said, like, I know you had that long list of all the possession books and movies that you were feasting upon. I'm like, and even as I was reading, I'm like, is that Fallen? Did Clay I'm like, no, that's, yeah. Then I look in and you're like, yeah, I watched Fallen. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, good, I like
Oh
Fallen a
yeah.
lot.
Denzel Washington is totally coming after me after this book comes out because it it pays massive lip service to Fallen. Um,
Fallen's great. More people should talk about Fallen. I feel like Fallen got forgotten a little bit among all the possession movies.
is
um
is there another like possession story, whether it's a novel or a film, that like does play with the notion of like, boop, you're possessed? I know Fallen does it and kind of really commits to the bit, but like, are there other ones where it's just like all it takes is
Touch.
human? Yeah.
I
Is
don't think so. I don't, not that I've seen. I feel like it's always a little bit more, ornate. Even though, like, obviously people play fast and loose with rules. You also reference both Exorcist and Exorcist 3. And
yeah.
Exorcist 3 is a little also fast and loose because of the old elderly people, and they just slide in, because again, it's like it's also the degree of autonomy. Like, how much
Yeah.
autonomy does the person have over their own body?
Yeah.
If they don't have any, then the demon in free reign, I guess. Like, again, you're establishing your own rules of what your demon can do, which I do have questions about.
Mhm.
I guess demon rules, but that's I'll do one. I'll do we'll jump to this question first, then do demon rules maybe. So this book goes back and forth between our two lovers, um, and how much of the differences in their voice was conscious decisions on your part versus you kind of finding those voices, and how you write the chapters. Their two perspectives are written distinctly different. Was that did you naturally just fall into that, or was that like I need to find a way to differentiate these two voices?
Um, there was definitely kind of like a searching process. Jordan was kind of there from the get go, but that's because Jordan is a pretty like he's a you know
One,
not
he's a human man. I would say he's
he's
not
a human man.
he's
He's a
not a
cis
demon.
Yeah. He was easier to find because he was uh, there was more of a familiarity to him. The challenge with Lilith was, and I think this is always the challenge of kind of stories like this, where you have this kind of other. You have whether it's an extraterrestrial or some supernatural being that is not of our world, but is suddenly experiencing our world. So it's the kind of the patois or the kind of the speech is always this kind of broken like otherworldliness, like and that I think that tends to grate on the reader. Like,
Right,
you
right.
know, I'm a stranger from a strange land, and what is this? Is this what do you call water? And
Yeah.
and that just kind of like wears thin pretty quickly. Um, so it took a draft or two to kind of iron that out.
Okay.
And but there is a kind of like otherworldliness to them, and they
I mean, even Jordan has it around the edges, and he's trying
yeah
to figure what that is as well. I mean, I think that's part of why his and I think why a reader, why I certainly went. It makes sense why he's pursuing Lilith,
yeah
because he's searching for what happens. He died. He came back. What did he see? You know, it's a that makes me. I go well. One, he is a young man still, really. He's in his 20s, so
yeah
you're like, I was pretty stupid in my 20s. I would go after a demon, but also like, well, yeah, and he died. It's
yeah
so traumatic. Like, and he died in at least thinks he saw hell.
yeah
Maybe he did see hell. He saw or the void or whatever you want to call it, an afterlife, a bad afterlife, a bad result.
yeah
So it explains that the darkness around him,
yeah
that that kind of thing.
it's a bit of an awakening of his worst self. And not to give away too much, but he's on a path of self-discovery uh, from there on. That is, yeah, he's a tough person to root for, but that's why he has Lilith to to, to egg him on. The two
I
of
mean,
them are perfect for each other.
was that a concern at all as well? Like, I mean, also like I don't know, like there is obviously in romance there's a huge spectrum of like there are romances that are just like these characters are like idyllic, almost like more like lovelier people that are just thrust into trying to figure out a relationship versus very toxic dark romance stuff where it's like awful monster people.
Yeah.
Was that a concern where you're fitting these characters on the spectrum? Did they tell you where they were fitting on that like likability, good person spectrum kind of thing?
It was most certainly a spectrum, and it the gradations of darkness kind of intensified the further into the process we went. And to that effect, I mean, I do think it was the characters kind of guiding me along to that discovery, that epiphany, because honestly, when I pitched, I mean, like in the beginning of the process, and I'm talking like maybe like the first week of formulating this, it was a guy meets a demon, and chaos ensues, like waka
Right.
waka, like like there's like, how are we gonna make this work out? Like it was
Yeah. Right.
it you know it is so inherently uh comedic or kind of like like I'm blanking on what the romance term is, but like opposites attract, the kind of like the idea of like he's from this side and they're from this side, like, you know,
Right.
like, and but the two of them meet and, you know, they're gonna make it work, you know. But it's that kind of inherent conflict of like, we want this to work, but we need to figure out how, and we don't know how yet. And the basically the kind of trajectory of the story is the two of them trying, failing,
Right.
um, and leaving a wake of bodies, you know, like a trail of bodies in their
Yeah,
wake.
there is. Yeah, it is those. There's some, especially the interstitial chapters. There's occasionally these we see other people. We see other people out in the world encountering Lilith and other demons, for that matter. And you're like, oh no, they're. It is the reminder of like, I think that is serves as a reminder of like, oh, Lilith is bad.
Yeah,
She is a demon. Like, don't forget this. Like, no matter what, no matter what, however Jordan loves her and all that, she's not great.
yeah.
She is what she is.
And that's, I think there's value to that. Those interstitial beats,
Oh
like,
yeah, I really like them. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. It just is, but it serves as that kind of function of like of breaking away from. It's again injecting a little bit more of the afterthought of horror in your
yeah,
brain. It's lingering. It lingered in my mind as you go, and then you're getting like to a very. It's almost and like there are these very romantic and very sweet scenes with Jordan and Lilith, and then the next scene is like something bad happening. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And you're like, oh, right.
yeah,
Can't forget that. You know,
yeah.
it's a reminder.
Little pleasant reminder.
Yeah. And this is, I guess not, this is a tangential question to that, but it is a very, I don't know, a question that popped in my mind immediately when I read this scene. And this is near the end of the book, so I'm like, I'm trying to do my best to dance around spoilers, but it's a scene late in the book that involves a fire. So, and you,
Oh, yeah,
at, in a party, and I'm I'm in that scene. I'm reading it, and I immediately am. The horror reader in me is like alarm bells blazing because, like, oh, this is where something bad is going to happen.
yeah.
It every like there's it's like that in Final Destination where they lay out like you see all the sets of things that are murderous,
Hmm.
and I could feel that in that scene. And my mind immediately goes to possibility space of because and you have in at that point in the book there is a lot of things in motion and a lot of and a lot of possibility and I don't know what's going to happen and the writer part of my brain immediately went like what is about what specifically what you include and what you don't include and then more about what I think what Jordan notices and doesn't notice
Hmm.
because the scene itself feels very tense and dangerous and it and like obviously you're purposefully doing that because you're building to this climax but Jordan is still is there's certain things where he doesn't notice necessarily or at least doesn't explicitly reference I'm doing my hardest to not spoil things explicitly reference certain danger a certain possibility of danger in that scene so in your mind when you were writing that and in general and brought in like any scene in any of your stories how much are you counting on a reader to carry that weight to carry that like oh they are a reader will recognize that this is a dangerous scene
Yeah.
I'm going and obviously I have done a lot of groundwork in building tension and the threats that are surrounding our character but I'm not going to have the character shout them out and I'm not going to necessarily even shout them out I'm just going to have this scene do the work for me have the environment do the work for me is that instinct is that in revisions is there a degree of like oh well I don't want to explicitly call out this or that because ultimately I'm building to this one thing and it's not those things those are red herrings I don't want to call attention to the red herrings
Yeah.
how much is that conscious
Man, that's an awesome question. And I you know, I wanna believe that it's uh the process. But you know, like it's funny because well, thank you, because you're you know, in your uh description, you're making the scene sound amazing.
It's
And I'm
very
like,
good. It is. I don't
did I
want
write that?
to. No, it's a very very good scene, and I liked it a lot because of those reasons.
Yeah,
Because you don't ever. And I don't know how much like I don't. I've said on this podcast, I'm not a typical reader. Obviously, I'm a writer, and I'm like I read a lot, and I don't pursue most books that a lot of readers want, or I like. I'm not a typical consumer for that matter, but I really like that scene because of that fact. Because Jordan is focused on certain things,
yeah,
which I will spoil, and then but the environment is telling us another story, right?
yeah,
It's telling
yeah,
and it's filtering in other danger and threat and tension that I would think are present in a typical horror story. If this is a climax of just this was a more traditional horror novel, I already have the story beat. I'm like, I know what Clay is going to do. I can see it, but it doesn't happen because this isn't a horror story, at least a
yeah,
typical one. It's a horror romance. And it's just like immediately my brain started firing. And I do think it's a great scene. It is a great scene. It's wonderful. It really and it does I think it perfectly encapsulates like what the two genre, quote unquote, the horror and the romance, how they work together,
yeah.
and like it navigates it really well.
That's great. Thank goodness. Um, but because I feel it's probably, I mean, it's definitely process and trial and
Right.
error and revision, and you know, ultimately, it's the dial adjustment where you know, I feel like that scene in particular probably ended up there. You know, ultimately after like, you know, does it go at the 1/3 mark? Is it halfway mark? Like where does this scene need to exist? And it felt, you know, putting it at the tail end gave kind of like a certain kind of ramp for the ultimate climax.
Right.
And you know, to answer your question about like, is it, you know, do you leave it to the reader? I mean, what's what's wild, and it's less about this chapter in my writing, but I think just in general,
Right.
like when a writer trusts the reader to kind of like draw those connections and make, you know, make the kind of synaptic connections, that's like the best feeling as a reader, because it's not, you're not being handed the answer, you're not being handed like spoon fed resolution or information, and it's up to you, the reader, to kind of like make those connections. And you know, there have been plenty of times where I've read a book where I'm like, oh, I'm so smart, like look at me, like I'm I'm doing this work. And it's because the writer, any writer who's worth their salt, kind of like lays down the foundation, kind of puts those pieces in play, and then just offers them up, and you as the reader meet them halfway. um, and I think that it's when a reader spoon feeds it to you that you're kind of like, it's not asking as much of you, and therefore like reading in of itself becomes a rather passive experience, which is kind of boring. But when like a really good book kind of like engages you and you're like thinking about it in that way and engaging with it that way, uh, you know, it feels like you're making these discoveries that are more sleight of hand on the author's part, and I think that's pretty amazing.
I immediately my like in the that I mean that scene just sparked that immediately about that thought in my head of like I don't know, I'm always searching for like I don't know, in my own writing it's always like how much do I give a reader? I
Yeah,
have all the information, but what do I give them?
yeah,
And what's the right balance of that? And it's always like a constant. I feel like I don't know. That feels like that is the push pull of like what a book is even
yeah,
like versus everything else in the book. It is how much have you given a reader? How much of this question versus answer versus letting them figure it out? How much?
yeah,
What are the right clues? It's like Jeopardy. You're asking to answer it. You have to ask the question.
Totally, totally. Yeah.
One more question before we move to the next segment. And that is about the demons and about rules and about hell. Um, this book is mostly about Jordan and Lilith's relationship. That's the center of the book. And obviously we get peeks at like what hell is and how Lilith works and how demons work and all that stuff. Do you have all that stuff in mind? Do you have a rule? Do you have rules for that? Do you in your head, even if they're never on the page, or you do go, I don't need to know that. The reader never sees it, so I don't need the rules. So I never build them. Do you have that stuff in mind?
I try to.
Okay.
You know, there isn't like a cheat sheet of like rule 1, rule 2, rule 3,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a certain kind of, you know, I think the trick for me is that you're given an aperture, you're given this
Right.
much of like
Right.
this much of a peek into the world, but for me, the writer, I want to at least be aware of this much, even if,
Around it.
yeah. So, you know, and I do know that like there are plenty of authors who will completely map out the entirety of a world, and that lore, and that, you know, this is on this day 2,000 years ago. What,
Here's
you
the
know,
rules.
yeah, the weather was this, um, and I respect that, and I think there's value to that. But the reason why I didn't do that specifically with Devil Inside is, you know, we're not dealing with the devil. We're not dealing with like
Right.
Lord Satan
There's
Almighty.
no. It's not about religion,
Yeah.
really. It's more. I mean, of all the quandaries, it's more ethical than like, oh, here's the rules of this version of like we have no idea what like Jordan doesn't talk about. I'm a Episcopalian. It's like nothing about that. It's like, oh no, demons are bad and they're trying to
They want to eat
make
you.
they want to eat you. It's bad. It's you say again, it's not what the book is about.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need it. I don't really need to know about church or whatever.
You know, if there was, and there will never be, but like if there was like a second book, like having a perspective of like an angel, like what would, you know, like up
I
here
mean,
we feed
you
you.
say that. You say there won't be a second book.
There will not be a second book.
Okay.
I mean,
I'd read it.
I will eat those words, but
Okay. Okay. Okay.
nobody at this point in the game, the day before the novel comes out,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
no one has been like, well, we've been thinking about it. So,
Okay. All right. I don't know. There could be.
mm,
I feel like there's a world where there's a sequel to this, or like another book in the same world,
yeah,
a spiritual sequel. You know, it's possible. I don't think it's a. I think you could do it. Again, are you interested? Is there demand? All those questions,
I mean, the
which are
scary thing,
different questions than could you write one?
yeah, totally. Um, I, the only thing I'll say, which is still to say, nobody's asking. Uh, Jordan and Lilith's adventures have just begun. So, like,
Exactly.
they leave the novel going on a path. Uh, so whether any reader in their right mind wants to follow along is, I will leave that up to someone
I
else.
mean, I have some comments, but they would spoil the book as well, so I'm not going to say them. People should go buy the book. It's out tomorrow. I had a great time with it,
Yay.
and me, the dedicated horror reader, thoroughly enjoyed it. So if anyone out there is like me and wants the dark horribleness, this book delivers. Filled with way more like existential, almost cosmicism than I expected. I wasn't expecting that in
Yeah.
particular, and it delivered a lot of it. Which, hey, that's what I like.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank God.
Yeah. Oh, come on. Don't bring God into this. It's too late for that.
Thanks, Satan.
Yeah, exactly. Hail Satan. We can move on to our next segment, which is the second act, which is broader bookish questions. We'll probably still bring up Devil Inside. But my first question is from my last guest, and I will ask you for my dog is barking.
I like it.
And I will ask you for a question for the next guest. at the end of the segment. And then my question is from Cassidy Van Gundy, and her question for you are: what are your writing rituals, if you have any?
Oh my God. Well, the strictest ritual is I wake up way before anybody else does. Like I'm at my desk starting at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just need to sit there, and you know, my brain at this point in the day is kind of mushy. So I find I'm a morning person, and I just function better. So my ritual is I get my coffee, I sit down at the crack of dawn, before the crack of dawn, and get cracking. And that, you know, but also like I do, you know, it's been said before more eloquently, but like just showing up at the desk and like, you know, whether you're staring at the screen and you only get a couple words down, like that, the ritual, the kind of the cycle of just like you're there, this is your writing time, like that's what helps me the most. If it's like, oh, I'll just get and I'll grab an hour here, or I'll, you know, like if
Right.
it's too loose, if it's not structured, I'm gone. I'm embarrassed to admit the first thing I usually do after sitting down at the desk is like checking social media and checking.
That's everybody.
Yeah, but that's like impeding upon the ritual. That's a ritual that I want to break. But it's the kind of like what's the world saying right
I
now?
mean, it's also I, I'm gonna. It's part of the job
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
I hate I. It's like I don't like. Obviously, it doesn't help your writing, like the actual process of writing. But being an author
Yeah.
is you have to be on social
Yeah.
media.
It's arguable that it's actually hurting my writing or one's writing. It's definitely
Right.
hurting my writing, you know, like
Right.
because you're just like, I'll see what people are saying online. And then you're like, oh, this is what people are saying. Like,
No. Yeah.
it's
That's
like,
not
you
good.
know, but I do think I want a cooler ritual. I need a better ritual. Okay, that's going to be my question. I know what my question is, so I'll ask it later.
Okay. Good. Excellent. The question I do ask everyone is, who's the writer more people should be reading? And you can give me more names than one if you'd like.
Okay. And like just straight out of the gates, the two names that came to my mind. Uh, I just finished this book called Cold, Empty Rooms by an author, Andy Marino. This book comes out in November. It is, without a doubt, one of my, if not my favorite book of the year. And I'm not like, there's no point in saying top three books, top five books, but like this book is unlike anything I've read in so long. It is scary. It has its own rhythms and pace that took me so long to understand and comprehend. It is a phenomenal book that I will absolutely go to the mat for.
Okay. That's
Because
I'm gonna go buy that now, or I'll go
oh
find it on NetGalley or whatever.
I mean, I'm sure it's going to frustrate people to no end because it's so that thing we were talking about before about the scene with the fire, like
Right.
trusting your reader. Andy trusts his readers to such a degree
Right.
to it might be a problem. Because people are going to pick this book up and be like, what the heck is going, like, what is this? And like, it's going to be because he denies you information. He denies you the the thing that kind of exposes like this is what's happening. You
Right.
have to find it in the book. It's there, but it's not for him to say ultimately.
I mean, that's hey, this you're saying all the right things. This is what I want.
It is an amazing book. And I'm still thinking about it days and days later. And the other book I want to throw out there is On Sundays She Picked Flowers by Yaya Schofield. I think it just got nominated for. Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to pull it. It just got nominated for something big, and like debut novel for some prize from like the Center of Fiction. Like it is a lush, gorgeous Southern Gothic romance. It's a book about haunted houses. Haints, uh, but it is written with such a vibrancy and humidity. Um, it makes me, this little Southern boy, feel really like, I don't know. It brings me home, and I just love that book. And it is her first novel, and there's something so kind of like awe inspiring about like when you write a book that good, and you're just like you're just humbled by the reading experience. I loved it. I loved it.
Excellent. I have links to those in the show notes if people want to go find them.
Yay.
Yeah. Let's see. I have my list of like my standard questions, and one of them is like I was like I'm having Clay on the show. I need to ask him this question. It's a crazy question, because it's a big question.
Okay.
So, what is your one prediction for the future of publishing?
Oh, jeez. Um, well, it's not a prediction. It's a hope. I hope it's still there. I hope it's still going strong.
Everyone's answer to this question has been that every single
Really?
person has been hope. I mean, a lot of sometimes it's like I hope we defeat AI. I
Yeah.
hope that publishing stays strong. Things like that.
I mean, it's I think it's a little scary. Though it's interesting because like just last night I did or weeks ago when you're listening to
Right.
this
Yes.
podcast, I was on a panel talking about like this golden age of horror that we find ourselves in at the moment. Like
Yeah.
they say we are now having a horror moment.
It
And
feels like it.
yeah, right. And I like the hope is that it continues. And I think the question was posed like, the previous golden age kind of died and fizzled in like the early 90s, I guess, early to mid 90s. And it wasn't until, 10, 15 some years later that it started to kind of pick back up again. So there's like a cyclical nature to this. But what someone like what John Langan said on this panel was the key difference about now is that horror in of itself is more diverse. The spectrum of horror is wider. There's a bigger umbrella. There are more stories to be told by a far more rich cast of storytellers. That it's not just the same five dudes, you know.
Yeah.
And that in of itself kind of inspires hope, that things will kind of continue. They might not reach the heights of like a Stephen King, but like that kind of it's not a plateau, but it's the like we don't need like the one. We need
Yeah. We don't need a monolith.
yeah, we just
Right.
need multiple. We need more voices, like more diversity within it, so that readers can kind of like go to like seek out the stories they want to hear.
I mean, I think that's ultimately even healthier if you want to talk about like health of publishing, which is again, it's a crazy, gigantic question, which is, and most authors have no control over. We are
Yeah,
writing our books and like, trying to help other authors, but we're not publishers. We're not
yeah,
running bookstores, all that stuff. But it is like, I think, a healthier ecosystem when you have many authors instead of three doing
yeah,
great, and
yeah,
but you have more variety, and theoretically you attract more readers, and they will find their niche of this golden age of
yeah.
what they want and be able to find it among whoever they're a motley crew of slasher, gothic, cottage core, weird horror romance, weird
Yeah.
girl lit, like again, like everything that is again kind of folded in under that umbrella of horror now. uh I don't
There's just
know,
more. There's more. That's
there is
great.
more.
Yeah.
Yes, more is better. I
Yeah.
agree. um let's see. When do you know a project is done?
um, I as someone who like loves their baked goods a little gooey in the center, I'm probably the worst person to ask. Um, because I like a little like raw egg in the mix. I love a little salmonella in my writing. Um,
Oh,
uh,
so that's a there's a clip right there. I'm gonna cut this clip right there. I like a little salmonella in my writing.
I mean, it's hard to say,
Right.
because uh, and maybe that's the difference of like a polished job versus like that kind of raw and rough around the edges, but still human, still not AI, still like the voice of this writer and not someone else. Um, I
Do you think that like I think about that a lot whenever I'm self-editing, revisions. I'm like, well, how much of my voice am I removing
yeah
by following a more standard grammatical, Chicago
yeah
style or whatever? Like, is that is leaving is you think a writer's voice can be partially be defined by like how much of that rawness we leave behind?
you know, we kind of started off talking about punk rock and that kind of like idea of the rawness versus the production value. And those first few drafts are so punk rock. They're the punkest, like
Right.
they're raw and earnest in a way that it's like such a kind of direct, like this came from here. Um and I think the best editors and the best revision process isn't the kind of refining of that rawness or the kind of like erasure of that rawness, but it is um like even Fugazi needs a little production value. Like it's like how do you kind of enhance the experience enough to know when the impact is real, and sometimes that's with a heavy hand like a Steve Albini, or maybe it's more polished like a Butch Vig. I don't know. I'm kind of like,
We're fully on music metaphors. I mean, it is. I think I don't know. I think of like old Misfits records, and I'm like, I just want to hear the music. I'd like to
yeah,
be able to hear it.
yeah,
I think that's ultimately like, hey, can I hear it? Can I
yeah,
like?
yeah,
It's literally like I don't. It doesn't need to be less raw. I do need to be able to like differentiate instruments
yeah,
and
yeah.
versus just dancing, yelling about something. Um, let's see. Here, do you have a grasp on why you write what you write?
Um, I'm grappling with it. I wish I had a better grasp. Um, and I think ultimately, I mean, I don't know, and I don't have a pat answer.
Right.
But like, these are the stories I'm compelled to tell, and that's either for like deep rooted personal reasons that go way back to childhood, um, but you know, these are the stories. God, these are just the stories that come out, and
Right.
if I resist that, if I push against that, then the writing suffers, the story suffers, and I don't know. Like, I'm, for better or for worse, these are the stories I want to tell, um, and the hope is that I can just find the readers who want to read them.
Right. I mean, it's like I don't know. Sometimes I think I can recognize it after the fact.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I wrote that story at that time because of this reason and this reason and this reason.
yeah,
But I certainly can't always like I don't know. I don't ever expect a pat answer from this question.
yeah.
It's about exploring that I don't know. It's a thing again of where you end up revisiting themes in multiple work where you're like, I keep writing about this. Why do I do that?
Isn't that amazing though? Like to have that moment of like, oh my God, I'm really obsessed with ghosts, or like, oh my God, this is like the fifth vampire story I've written. Like, why can't I quit you?
I told an author about my next idea, and she's like, Robbie, you're writing a lot of you're writing a lot about God. I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
But
It's
you're
kind of I mean it's a part of life, religion, God, existential things. It's all part, and not even necessarily about big capital G God, but about our humans gods,
totally.
the lowercase gods. Let's see. We'll do one more question. for this segment. So, what is the hardest scene or character you've ever written, and what made it so difficult?
Wow. Um, that's a good question. And I had like five answers, but I'm gonna land on I wrote this novel a couple years back called What Kind of Mother, which is like a Nicholas Sparks novel that like devolves into like a cosmic horror thing. Um, but like framed in the like two broken people kind of reconnect later on in their life and try to rekindle something. And but one of the characters is a like a phony palm reader, like a fake psychic. Um, and I I wrote a lot of stuff, a lot of material for that book that ended up not getting, like, not making the cut. Um, and it took a lot of dial adjustments, but also the kind of like I have to write it to explore it and find out which is the direction to go, which ended up being like a lot of stuff didn't make the final cut, which is always a an interesting feeling because you're like it's like, well, there goes that week of writing down the tubes,
Right.
um but you have to kind of like and as a pantser, or as like a moderate outliner that like leans into pantsing, um, that's hard. You're writing more, and you have to acknowledge at some point that that stuff is just gonna go away.
I mean, and you did write it, and you like it's,
Yeah,
and you had the experience of writing it. And it was, I mean, it's like I don't know, especially if you're less of a plotter, exploring, filling out the fog of war, as they say. You still have to find the map.
totally, totally.
Yeah. Um, what's your question? The question you teased earlier. What's the question for our next guest?
Can you come up with a really cool new writing ritual?
Okay. asking, asking, coming up with a new one. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that could. It's that's Jennifer McMahon. So
Oh, wow.
we'll see
Okay,
what she
cool.
says about that.
That's awesome. Jennifer's the best. I love her.
Yes, she is the best. I agree. You mentioned, see how you mentioned people's names. They're like, they're the best. You're like, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Everyone's the best.
We get the best guests.
I mean, I try real hard. Also, like, she has a book coming out. It's not, you have a book coming out. But it's part of the deal. You gotta, like you said earlier, you gotta sell. You still gotta sell books.
You gotta hustle.
Um, it's time for the final segment. It is time for blood. I know it's dramatic. It's time for trouble. It's time for struggle, for hardship, for things you're struggling with now or you have in the recent past. This could be anything. It could be nuts and bolts, mechanical issues with the draft. It could be business problems. It could be social media, which we've already mentioned. It could be marketing. It could be business. It could be imposter syndrome. It could be I'm trying to think of other things people have brought up recently. A lot of imposter syndrome lately, but I think that's just writers. That's who we are. But you tell me, what's on top of mind? What would you like to talk about?
Um, God, what do I want to talk about? I I do feel like Devil Inside is it's a dark book, and I am kind of bracing myself for the reader reactions. Um, I usually bat like a 50-50 when it comes to readers, where, half of them will be like, oh, I really like this book. And the other half will be like, I really did not like this book. And, you know, it it's always kind of like, oh man, like such a bummer when you disappoint someone. But that's also to say that like not all books are for everybody.
Right.
And I don't know. I think the thing I'm navigating right now, and this is not specifically to Devil Inside, though it's most definitely includes Devil Inside, is this idea of like who I'm writing for, and how to find those readers. Um, I I try really hard to meet readers halfway, and sometimes that means meeting the wrong readers or giving those readers the wrong book. Whichever way you want to kind of frame it. Um, but it is this like earnest attempt to like seek out the people who would respond to this material, and a lot of that is kind of trial and error. Um, and I think the thing I'm struggling with is that kind of like strain of uh, trying really hard, maybe trying too hard, but like wanting to find my readers.
I mean, I don't think you can do it without shedding people. Like you, when people buy your book, and some will love it, some will
Yeah.
like it, and some will dislike, and some will hate. And I don't think there's a way to. There's certainly no perfect way. And I think you, as particular, you are very prolific, and you're not afraid to try new avenues. Try a thing like Devil Inside, which is like certainly not the safe decision. It's not like the safe, like you could just write, I don't know, which again is admirable, but it is like there's gonna be readers who be like, there's gonna be romance readers who don't want all the horror, and there's gonna be horror readers who don't want all the romance. But
Yeah.
then you will also, alongside that, find romance readers who would never try a horror book, but then they go, no, I like the horror in this. And who's this guy? Oh, he writes horror books. Let me go buy one of his other horror books. See what I feel like it, and vice versa. Like I feel like it's just the nature of it. Like there's always you're gonna disappoint people because it's the nature of the gig. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know. You're doing. I don't know. You're doing fine. it's it's the I don't. I just have I don't there's a certain path, like I sell enough books at conventions that I go to the same convention every year, and I
Yeah.
notice certain people who have bought books from me before love me, come back, buy more, and there's some people I recognize who I have sold books for, and they don't buy more books from me,
And they're like
and I
avoiding
go,
eye contact. They're just like,
well,
like what?
or they'll they might smile, and I'd be like, hi, how's it going, but they don't want to, and I go, they probably bought that book either they read it and didn't like something about it, or they didn't read it at all, and they're
Yeah.
like, they're not a reader, they're not going to read, why would they buy a new book from me when they haven't read the last one?
Yeah.
It's things like that. I don't know, it's a very micro scale of the same principle, but it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know if it's I don't know if you need to carry that burden. You don't
Yeah.
need to carry that onus of, that it's just, I think that's just being an artist.
True. True. I guess my only quibble is when readers blame the book. I hate this
Oh,
book. Like this is the worst book ever written. Like, ugh.
boy, okay. I mean, I'm with you. Like, it's insane. That's crazy. I mean, like, I had a conversation with another author last night over DMs, and they were talking about Goodreads, and I say, don't go on Goodreads. It's full of mean people. They're mean on purpose. They want to be mean. They don't want to just give an opinion. Some, I mean, obviously not everybody, but there are people specifically on Goodreads. It feels like they are looking for books they're going to hate. They don't want to read books they want. They want to find books to hate so they can type a very snarky 3-paragraph long response about why this book's terrible. And you're like, that's just a very unhealthy person. I don't know what to tell you. And unfortunately, they get to leave the same review as a person. But
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, no book is a Swiss Army knife. No book does everything.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like this is not any one author's, I would say, like, I don't think any author thinks this way, but like, I think there are a specific type of reader who expects every book to change their life. And if it doesn't, then it has failed. And I'm like, I just want a good time. I don't need, or, like, in case of a horror book, a bad time. But, it's like, I think that's a healthy expectation. And I don't know. Those readers do drive me up the wall. I 1000% concur with you. And because you are, growing more popular, and because you publish a lot, you probably face it. And I mean, it's growing pains, I would say,
Yeah.
when it's a good problem to have
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're the Clay McLeod Chapman burgeoning superstar of horror.
Oh,
You don't think
man.
that way? You don't think yourself as a burgeoning superstar of horror?
I mean, you spoke about like imposter syndrome.
Right.
Um, the in terms of the kind of balance, the majority, like the voice that wins out in my head every day is the Goodreads voice. The
Oh
you know,
no, not very. No, Clay. No, no, that's bad.
but what it hasn't done is made me stop writing.
No,
Like that, like
that's
the voice hasn't won, but it's still
good.
there.
It's there. Yeah. I mean, someone has brought up your name on this podcast in relation to this because they also were talking about imposter syndrome, and I think they talked to you about it at some point, and you had said, yeah, you face. I'm like, and it's like, it's the case in point. It doesn't matter where you are in your career.
Yeah.
You do battle with doubt.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And I don't know. I would say put that Stoker award, put it like right in view. Just have it like right there so you can just look at it and go, wait, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good.
I'll try. I'll try.
Okay. I know. I know. It's not, it doesn't matter what I say. That's the crazy thing about it is that there is a certain amount of it that we can't rationalize away.
Yeah.
You could sell a bunch of books. You can have big deals. You could be famous for whatever that's worth. You get awards, and I could say, yeah, other authors can say I love you, love your work, et cetera, but they're still inside.
They can't get in here.
Yeah,
They're here.
they can't. I mean, it's a battle everyone has to fight on their own at some point. When you're up at 5 a.m. by yourself trying to write.
With
Et cetera, et cetera.
in my head.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Again, but it is like you don't let it stop you.
Yeah,
you just keep going. You're just like keep writing, all that. I don't know. I also think that we as authors, when you're bringing up the review thing again, we live in the worst time it's ever been for that.
Yeah,
because of the 5-star review system. The 5-star review system is a scourge, and I hate it with my whole body. I hate it. Like, it shouldn't, you should either like a book or you don't like it. But because we have to give it 5 stars and is this someone on my Instagram was like, they were like talking about a movie on their stories, and they're like, is this a 3-star movie to y'all, or does it feel like more like 2.5? How would you rate this? And I'd be like, you reject the 5-star system. Did you like the movie? It's not, you don't have to decide if it's 4-star book or 4.5-star book. It's ridiculous. Was it good? Did you like it? Are you going to remember it in 3 months? Now I'm on my soapbox. I'm sorry.
I just wish people would round up with their reviews.
Don't
round down, round up.
I do round. I honestly don't. I give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Those are my choices. And if it's a thumbs down, I don't talk about it because I know how hard it is to sell a book. Yeah. I'm like, and I know how, and I think as writers, we understand more than anyone how particular voices and tone and in whatever chemistry you have with a reader. It's so particular, and it has nothing to do with how good a writer is. It's nothing to do with that. I think anyone listening to this podcast is not going to disagree with us. I think they agree with us, but I mean, we're shouting into the void. But I think you are finding your readers. I have I'm the outside looking in, right? I'm just I'm the electric eye down on you, and it seems onward and upward. More and things like Devil Inside, where you're like, wow, that's a really interesting risk. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about this one. Like, you always have more books I could talk to you about, but this one, I'm like, this is such an interesting choice, to try and write a romance book when you're writing everything else, and it's really good. And people should go buy it and read it because they'll like it.
Thank you.
Before we go, Clay, there's an order of operations here. The first thing we do, I've been doing it for a while now, is you're going to manifest something for your near to intermediate career. You're going to speak it aloud, and it's going to happen. So within the next in the near to intermediate future, what is something you'd like to happen in your career? You speak it aloud, and it will happen because we're doing it right now.
Oh, I believe in the jinx.
Oh no,
So
this is reverse jinx. That's what we're doing.
um I I just want to be able to continue writing. I think I'm acknowledging that like being prolific also kind of like counters stability. So I'm going to acknowledge that I'm going to slow down a little bit, focus on the work at hand.
Right.
And like success to me doesn't need to be like, you know, New York Times bestseller, that would be great. I mean, I wouldn't say no, but like for me, the thing I want to manifest is consistency and substantialness. Like I want to be able to tell the stories I want to tell, write the things I want to write, and support my family. Like just to be like, to put a roof over the head, like
This is
live. I want to live off
here's-
of my work. I am
this is
manifesting.
okay. That's perfectly good. I mean, I feel like that's a very reasonable ask. I think. I don't think it's not a crazy
Not
thing to
so much
ask
that,
for.
well, I mean, but it is because that's not a guarantee
No, I
for
know.
everybody.
For
And it's
I
not
mean,
a
for
guarantee.
anyone, even like no matter
Yeah.
who you are.
You could have it and then it could all go away. I feel like the things the compliment you're paying me is it's a wave. I'm riding a wave right now, and that wave could be a long one or it could be a really short one. And it's just like I want to take advantage of it while I have it. Say yes to every opportunity that presents itself to me. My hope, the manifestation that I want, is that I just want it to be a nice long wave.
I think it will happen. We just did it.
Yay!
That's
Thank
how it
you.
works.
Thank you. I
I
was
have a
worried about that, so thank you.
no. Well, I have a track record here, proven track record of multiple things happening that people have tried to do. But people are manifesting things and they've happened. So I'm gonna say that it's also like I just get a bunch of good writers who are very hardworking and write good stuff, and then naturally good things happen to them because they make books people want to read,
Well,
and
I'm
they're go
holding you to it.
getters. Okay, good. I want to hear back. I mean, I have faith in this one. I have faith
Alright.
in this one.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I don't like see this. You're like I don't know about that, Robbie.
I don't know.
So okay, that's the first order. The second one is tell people where they should pick up Devil Inside, where they should go buy it, where they should pre-order, where you prefer them to buy it. Obviously, they can just go buy it at any bookstore, but where would you prefer them to buy it, and where can they follow you on the internet?
I mean, I would make an impassioned plea for your local bookstore, wherever that may be. I think that's just we have to keep these bookstores going, keep them alive. Um, I'm kind of doing social media. Like I'm on all of the platforms, and I'm kind of like posting and running. I'm pretty Googleable. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Threads. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I don't know what Twitter. But it's all the kind of like where's everybody going? Where are we hanging out? And just kind of like yeah.
Don't ask me. I'm on Instagram, and that's mostly it. But everyone has different answers.
Yeah.
I
Instagram
don't know.
feels the nicest.
That's why I'm there. That's because I'm tired. I got TikTok gives me mental health problems, so I got off of it. Even though it helps sell me books, I don't. But it's not worth the damage it did to me. I feel like I was not. Well, ask me again in a year if I'm. We'll see if I'm back on TikTok in a year. I might be. That's it. We're done, Clay. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Robbie. This is the best. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.